Yes, yes, yes. Welcome once again to episode 10 of the No Cell Wrestling podcast. Today, you just get myself, Tequila the Body Ventura, and Alan, the $1 million man, Alan. You know what? I got a lot of money. Great. Ted was so good. So big up everyone who's watching. Remember to like, subscribe, do all this good stuff. It is only me and Alan this week, unfortunately. Kevin couldn't make it on short notice, and Com is working as he always does, bless him. So you just get myself and Alan, and we're going to have a quick discussion. We've got 4 topics, and we'll probably be able to get to all 4 this week. We can't always get to all 4 in time, but there's only me and Alan, so there's no reason why we can't get to all 4.
Yep.
Let's start with the most recent thing. We'll talk about last week's Raw and SmackDown. Alan, obviously the Raw and SmackDown after Mania, and then obviously the second Raw on Monday. How are you feeling regarding anything you've seen? And WWE is known to kind of taking their foot off the gas after WrestleMania. They tend to always do this every year.
They certainly have.
Yeah, I would say they didn't particularly have their foot on the gas much going into WrestleMania. So
I agree.
Change. So.
Yeah, I agree with that. As I said last week when we talking post Mania.
Yeah.
The Raw after Mania, I always get excited for because you always get these, big debuts, and you get a bit of backlash from the Mania event. But the Raw after Mania was so dull. It was so boring. Nothing happened. Nothing happened at all. All we got was Ethan Page debuted. I thought, good. They announced Joe Hendry for the following week. Sol Ruka's being announced coming in soon. And I thought, if that is it. You got some NXT call-ups. Gee, thanks. I know the whole Jericho thing's gone cold because obviously he's re-signed with AEW, so he's out the picture completely for at least a couple of years. MJF has also he re-signed a couple of years ago. Having been citing he was be signing with old Saint Nick Khan. In the bidding war of 2024, that obviously he obviously buckled, and now he's being jobbed out pretty much every time he gets a world title. But yeah, this whole WrestleMania season, like you said, they've never had their foot on the pedal at all. They lazily lumbered through WrestleMania. We got the worst possible card. It was awful. And it's not much better. Not much better.
I have to agree with you. The Raw after WrestleMania used to be one of the. It was. I remember, Alan, during its heyday. It was like. It was like a free. It was almost like it was nearly as big as the WrestleMania. You had this is back when WrestleMania was just one night. You had the WrestleMania, and then a lot of the fans stayed over. So a lot of the fans who were international fans, as we know, a lot of international fans back when America was much in the nicer place to get into. By the way, for the record, I'm not saying that hasn't played a role. And then the fans would stay an extra night. They would go to WrestleMania, then they'd stay an extra night to watch. The Raw, and that was nearly as big a thing because you always got some massive debut, or there was a big shock, or you got a glimpse into the next 12 months of storylines. You got a little bit of a window into what's probably on the horizon, and it has faded over the years. And then this year, maybe it's an age thing, Alan. I don't know. I don't find Sol Ruka interesting. I don't find Joe Hendry. I've known of Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry was on the English circuit 15 years ago. I've known of Joe Hendry for years and years.
Yeah.
And fair play to him for grinding away and finally getting to, I'll give him that credit. But I've seen this guy and was never been that impressed with him for years upon years and years. He was in the English circuit for ages and ages. And then he stumbled across this kind of guitar Elias gimmick, which is what it is.
Exactly what I thought, actually.
And the Elias gimmick, by the way, was a rip-off of The Rock's gimmick. The Rock, Hollywood Rock's gimmick.
He did the old concerts, didn't he? The Rock in concert, yeah.
Yeah, and with all due respect to Joe Hendry and Elias, though Elias did have quite a lot of charisma, I quite like Elias, but neither one of them were The Rock. So you're copying somebody who is always going to be better than you at what you're trying to do. But Joe Hendry, at least, is a baby face, right? Elias, for the most part, was a heel. So it's a bit different, but I'm not that excited about Joe Hendry. His stick is going to wear it's already worn thin for me, but the masses are going to get very bored of this very quickly, in my opinion. Give it 6 months, he'll be losing every week. Give it 6 months, in my opinion.
Yeah, he'll be jobbing. He's basically doing new Elias, isn't he? He's going to be jobbing every week.
Yeah. 6 months down the line, he will be, lucky if he gets even to the IC title. I'll be shocked if he gets that high. And then Ethan Page, I've got a bit of time for. I think he's probably my favorite of the new call-ups.
Yeah, I agree.
Need to see a bit more, but from what I've seen, I saw bits of him in NXT, and I know he was in AEW as well. So I have seen bits of him. So I don't mind him, but I can't say and I've already shared my thoughts on Obafemi and the young'un, as Alan likes to call him, and I'm not particularly interested in either one of them either.
Nope.
It's just a taste thing. I'm not saying other people can't be, and I think maybe it is an age thing. Like Evans, Alan, he's not there for me and you. He's there for
no.
He's not there for you.
I see this G Fun Evans guy, and I just think Kofi Kingston.
What
he does exactly what Kofi Kingston was doing, at that age. He was jumping around, doing flips, all that kind of stuff.
And they know that, and they see that as well. Otherwise, they wouldn't have started the storyline with Kofi trying to take him under his wing, because they know as well. Yeah. Oh, he reminds people of Kofi Kingston, because he does. So an Obafemi, again, I've said I'm not going to bash Oba every week. I just don't think he's a second coming like so many others seem to do. No. WWE seem to think of him that way, Alan, because
I think he's being overexposed, if I'm honest.
I think so as well.
Yeah. If they hotshot him to a world title within the next 6 months, I think that's too fast. I think he needs a mid card title first.
100%.
Otherwise, 100%. He's just going to fizzle out. He'll be forgotten about come Royal Rumble next year.
Big up to Wayne Bonner in the chat. Good evening, folks. Hope you're all well. Good old WWE releases. We'll get to them in a sec, Wayne. Always a few stupid ones. Post-Mania Raw was dull. As listened to one of my exes. Too many bloody ads during WrestleMania. Yeah, we talked about that. Big up to Revel, who, like I say, unfortunately can't join us. Acknowledge your tribal bumlord of Samoan wrestling. Thank you. Thank you, Revel. Entertainment keeper of all the bloodline. Shoe coming soon to hit your pockets.
Oh, yeah, his bloody shoes.
Yeah. Very rich man to have so many fucking shoes. Big up to Wayne, who says, Obafemi is no more than a Brock Lesnar replacement. I think he's in the same world as Brock Lesnar, if I'm honest.
Have you heard that thing what Brock said recently? I think he said something this week.
What did he say?
Brock underwent surgery to have some of his intestine removed.
Oh, God. He had something, a dermatitis or something?
Yeah, something like that. And one of the reasons why he didn't want to go as far as to SummerSlam, because he knows Gunther and those chops. He said that chop from Gunther would probably have ended his life.
Really?
So that's one of the reasons why he's decided to call it quits at Wrestlemania.
Well, I'm still hoping we'll get one more match, but it could be maybe that was it. Maybe he went and told them, look.
Even so, if you watch the then now forever together segment at the start of every show, Brock has been replaced in his usual spot by Obafemi, and Brock has been moved to the forever part of the segment.
Interesting. Well. We'll talk about Raw. Right. So, since Rebels mentioned it in the chat, I want to talk about these bloody open challenges, right? I'll tell you what, John Cena, because John Cena started this all those years ago with his bloody US Open Challenge, right? And it was an okay concept to start with. Kevin Owens debuted, I believe, during that thing. I think Sami Zayn debuted during the John Cena Challenge, right? And it was okay as a one-off. And then these open challenges. Every time there's a new babyface champion, Alan, they do these open challenges. I think Trick Williams on Smackdown actually cancelled it, which is quite funny because he's meant to be a babyface now. And he's turned around and said, because his character's not a babyface at all, by the way. We'll get on to other characters who are babyfaces who aren't babyfaces, like a certain tribal bum who is not a babyface character in the slightest. But these open challenges, Alan, I personally think is a bit of a booking. The bookers have used it as a booking crutch. Oh, we haven't got any ideas. We'll just throw out an open challenge. And as Rebels put in the chat, this open challenge isn't even for a title. This isn't even for a belt. This is Obafemi. He's been around for 4 months on the main roster, right? And he's had a couple of matches, only one match against anyone of real value. Let's be honest here. Only one match against anyone of real value, which is Brock Lesnar. So what is there? Explain to me how there's an open challenge for him. He's not at that stage of his career. I think his character is heelish as well, by the way. For the record, he called himself the Ruler. This is not a baby. In my opinion, it's not. It's not particularly babyface character. He reminds me. The more I see of him, the more he reminds me of a Goldberg, and they're treating him like a Goldberg. And I'm going to be warned, as somebody who lived through Goldberg in his prime, like you did, Alan. Those first 6 months of Goldberg were great, and then look what happened once he started having to lose. Once he had to start actually having, once he had to start giving stuff back, once he had to start selling, once he had to start being in 50-50 programs where he couldn't be dominant every week, Goldberg fell off a cliff. Just warning you guys, for all you Oberfemi fans out there who think this guy's a second coming, just saying, he's got to show an awful lot more to be a lot more diverse performer. Otherwise, he'll fizzle out. He'll fizzle out within 2 years. Unless he adapts, unless they do something, unless he shows that he's more than just this dominance, because this dominance can't last. As a babyface, it can't last. As a heel, it's got a bit more of a longer shelf life. As a babyface, look at Ryback, look at Goldberg, look at Braun Strowman. All lost their sizzle after a year or two max, after being this dominant babyface. So I'm just saying, I've seen this happen loads of times. That's my feeling on Oberfemi. Alan, anything on Raw that really caught your attention? Because I saw the main event segment. I find Roman Reigns dislikable. I think that character is so dislikable to me that I cannot find any babyface thing about the man at all.
No, he shouldn't be a babyface at all. He gives that aura that he shouldn't be a face in any way. He's arrogant. He's obnoxious. He still hasn't said sorry to his cousins, by the way.
Nope.
About how he treated them during the whole bloodline thing. There's no redeeming features about his character. He should not be a face. He's only a face because the crowd start singing his stupid song at him. That's the crowd.
Yeah, the reason we're a face is because the crowd like a winner, and because Roman Reigns has been booked so strong. And if you think I'm lying, guys, look at Roman Reigns' last 5 years in wrestling, and you tell me how many pinfall losses Roman Reigns has suffered. Go on, you count them on one hand.
Yeah, you count on one hand, but but still, we could easily ratio that with how many times was he assisted in wins.
Yeah, 100%. But my point is that what I mean is that fans in all kind of sports, and I know that we all know wrestling's predetermined, but still, they will cheer. They will like winners. Wins and losses do still matter, and Roman Reigns has been presented as a winner who wins 95% of his matches, and that 95% might be me being generous, because he suffered like 5 pinfall losses in like the last 10 years or something, at least ever since the whole bloodline stuff, which was 2020 during the, I think so, 6 years. So that's 1 pinfall loss per year. And you book anyone to have 1 pinfall loss per year, they'll get momentum. Roman Reigns, for me, is okay as a heel and is tolerable as a heel because he oozes heelness. Last time he was a babyface, he was under his old character. So now they're trying to make him a babyface under the OTC character. So he's not the big dog character, he's the OTC character. Yeah. And before someone says to me, "Oh, Nick, what about Steve Austin?" Steve Austin wasn't a typical babyface. Steve Austin was beloved because of his innate charisma. Steve Austin was cheered as a heel because he was different from guys like Bret Hart and everything for his time. So was the Steve Austin character a babyface character? No, but he was beloved. Roman Reigns does not have that same kind of cheeky grin that Steve Austin had. And if you saw Austin in his prime, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. The little quirks that Steve Austin had. And it's the same as The Rock as well. The Rock was a smart ass. Rock was better as a heel. But Rock was a smart ass who had this charisma about him. That's why. Roman Reigns, I'm afraid to tell you, does not possess this charisma. I'm not saying he's the absolute dirt worst on the mic, and he's certainly better than he was. But if people think he's like The Rock or like Steve Austin, I mean, I don't know what planet you guys are on.
Yeah,
that's what you see. People won't like it, and I know that a lot of people like Roman Reigns, especially the younger generation, and I guess that's it. But so from my point of view, Alan, I can't stand Roman Reigns as a babyface. I can't stand it.
He should just be a heel.
And I think it's also ruined any character progress that the Usos has made. And even though I know Jey Uso isn't the most popular wrestler to any of us, me, you, and Rebel have had said a lot about Jey Uso. But to see any character work that Jey Uso or Jimmy Uso has had over the past 3 or 4 years has all been just forgotten. They've just pressed the reset button. So I don't know. And Jacob Fatu, he ain't beating Roman, Alan. That's the thing. Jacob Fatu,
no chance.
He's not beating him. Roman ain't dropping the title after a month.
He's getting a Superman punch and a spear. That's it. That'll be Jacob Fatu done. And then that and literally that will be him done.
Here's a question for you, Alan. Then, obviously the last segment of Raw, Roman Reigns obviously just a dislikable babyface, as I said. I'm not sure if the crowd knew how to take Jacob Fatu, because obviously he's still meant to be a babyface, but you could say, he put on his Tonga Death Grip. Big shout out to Haku, by the way, for the Tonga Death Grip. He put that on Roman, and the crowd actually booed him. So was that a heel turn from Jacob?
Supposedly, yes. Supposedly that was him turning heel. Because I think he acknowledged Solo was the only one there for him.
The same Solo who he beat, who he pinned last week on Smackdown, and who he feuded with last year over the US belt.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. I mean, if you're really going to do away the MFTs, then I think maybe those guys should have been a few of the cuts from last week.
Also, another little hole in this storyline is that Roman Reigns says to Jacob, "Oh, it wasn't Solo Sikoa who brought you in; it was me." Actually, if you remember the storyline is that Jacob Fatu was not allowed to come in. None of the other Samoans wanted him, and only Solo Sikoa was the only one willing to put his neck out on the line because Jacob had such a bad reputation. So they've just completely. And
Roman wasn't even around. He'd just been beaten by Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania.
Yeah,
he was in the period when he wasn't even around.
It's complete BS. And when I speak of nepotism, is it surprising to anybody that Roman Reigns' first feud after WrestleMania is with yet another one of his family members? And I've got nothing against Fatu. I think the booking of Fatu over the past 6 to 8 months has been quite poor. I think he's lost a lot of steam. I think he's better as a heel, but it's not lost on me that Roman Reigns is again putting his family in these prominent positions, and he gets away with it because of who he is. And it's just like I don't want to see these things.
Well, the funny thing is, Roman Reigns actually used the word nepotism in his. Well,
you did, yeah.
Promo last week, because he said that's the reason why I'm not going to face your backlash, because you don't want it to be some sort of nepotism or something.
Yeah, well, that can be the storyline, but of course, Roman Reigns more or less picks who he feuds with. We already heard the rumors that that originally it was meant to be Cody and Roman Reigns, and then Roman Reigns didn't want to lose to Cody, so it's like, oh well, don't worry, Punk will put you over. So it's like, all right, I'll go fight CM Punk. Reigns is the power player backstage, and who's on the board of directors? Oh look, it's The Rock. Another. I mean, come on, let's not. So it's not a fair. I'm not saying Jacob Fatu doesn't deserve a chance. He probably does, but I also think there's a lot of other people who I could say have been there a lot longer who probably deserve a chance ahead of him. I can give you some names, but anything else on Raw, Alan? I thought it was an okay wrestling show, but I mean, I think the main wrestling was the main event was wasn't it Bayley versus Roxanne Perez? It was the last match, I think. Was it not a tag match?
It was a tag match, wasn't it?
Was it a tag match? Yeah, it might have been a tag match, but I remember I was fast forwarding because I wasn't that interested. Even though I like Roxanne, I was like, well, this isn't the main event. And then it was the segment, and then Roman Reigns was in the segment after. And I was like, what? That was the main event? Just
it was a tag match. Yeah. Pop Rocks to Bayley. That's how it finished.
Yeah, I saw the ending. Yeah. I was just like, that's the wrestling main event. Okay. It was a bit of okay, that's So for me, I don't think I'm going to be enjoying the storylines whilst Reigns is the champion, and whilst I don't think he's going to hold it for another fight, he better not.
No, he won't.
I do think he ain't dropping it. He ain't dropping it at least until SummerSlam.
Yeah, Mania is next year is his last event, so he says.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that in a sec. Anything else for you on Raw or SmackDown this week, Alan? That you thought was good?
I mean, this could probably segue into our next subject, but the Obafemi segment, where he's talking to Grayson Waller, and I think to myself, if there's a candidate right there who's set for the chop, why is Grayson Waller still around? He doesn't offer anything. He's not even with the New Day anymore. From what segment looks like, he's been dropped from them.
They've dropped that, haven't they?
He's never been any kind of a threat to anything. He might have been good at NXT, maybe, but since he came to the main roster, he's been doing is been teaming up with Austin Theory, then teaming up with the New Day, and every time he gets in the ring, he just gets destroyed. I mean, yes, you need jobbers on the roster, but for crying out loud, I mean, the man must have some talent, surely. And if he doesn't have anything, why keep him?
Yeah, I think Grayson Waller's kind of like, he's kind of on that borderline kind of comedy jobber, isn't he? He's not really further up than kind of like comedy jobber. And he's, Obafemi's just squashed him. And you might say, well, Obafemi does that to everyone. Well, no, that's going to make people that'll make me dislike Obafemi, because I don't want to see Obafemi destroy everybody. That's not what I want to see. I don't want to see him, even though I'm not Grayson Waller's biggest fan. Obafemi's going to end up fighting somebody who I do respect and I do think deserves to be in a much higher position. I'm going to get very upset when they book Obafemi to beat him in 90 seconds. Hasn't happened yet, but it will. And when it does, I'm going to come down on it. When he does beat somebody in 90 seconds who I do value, I'm going to call him out. Before we head on to the next topic, and big up to Wayne Bonner, who's also said, I find Trick Williams to be more interesting in Oba, more fun too. I'm not in love with either, but if you're asking me to choose out of the two, I think I can see why some people like Trick Williams a bit more, because he's got a bit more of the character stuff down. I still think he's a heel, but that's a different conversation. And Wayne also says, aside from Punk and maybe one or two others, who do WWE have that championship material to take on Roman? I think after the Jacob Fatu is not going to be a long program. It's probably going to be a one and done. It'll be a spear, and then Jacob might join the Bloodline. I hope he doesn't, but he might join the Bloodline.
Well, nothing else. That's always a sort of a death stroke, really, for most people. If they end up in a faction like that, then that's basically the writing team saying, "We've got nothing for you."
Yeah, I mean, if he joins the Bloodline, he'll just be filling Sally Sikoa's role in this new Bloodline. Which is
actually, I will say something which I thought was interesting. Where was Talatonga on SmackDown?
Talatonga?
He wasn't there. Tama was there. Tonga Loa was there. Obviously, JC Mateo was there, and obviously Solo Sikoa. But where was Talatonga?
I'll be shocked. I'll be shocked if any Samoans got fired.
He wasn't. Well, yeah, so would I. But he wasn't on any graphic. He was never mentioned. He just wasn't there.
We'll have to see if there are any more releases. I mean, sometimes they don't do the one in one go. Sometimes they'll do them, and then there'll be a gap, and then they'll do another bunch. So who knows if we're completely out of the way. We'll get to that in a sec. Just to finish answering your question, Wayne, I think Roman's challenges probably within the next 6 months are going to be Gunter. Yep. I think Seth Rollins' reigns they wanted to do before Rollins got injured. That was the first main event they'd planned for Roman, was Rollins. And then they just after Rollins went down, they just put Punk. So it would have been Rollins versus Reigns, and it would have been Reigns beating Rollins, most likely for the belt. So that's all. So they still want to do that match. They're both baby faces, but there's so much history with the Shield and the stuff at WrestleMania and the stuff with Paul Heyman, and that they can do it as a babyface, or they might just turn Rollins heel, because they didn't want Rollins turning face. The injury, they never planned on Rollins being a babyface again so soon. So he could easily go back to being a heel, not with the Vision. I think that stuff's all done now. But he could easily go back to being a heel and feud with Roman. That'll be a big deal, because obviously there's so much history with those two. So whenever those two feud, it's one of those things where those two can feud every few years, and there's always going to be interest because they came up with the Shield together. So there's always going to be that rivalry between them that will never really ever be ended. It's a bit like Triple H and Shawn Michaels used to feud back in the day every couple of years, if you remember, Alan.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
One minute they'd reform DX, then they'd break up, and then a couple of years later they'd reform DX, and then they'd break up and rinse and repeat. And that's what we're probably going to get with Rollins and Reigns. Only other contender I see, it's Gunter and Rollins. I think Obafemi. I mean, we'll talk about what I think I think next year's WrestleMania is when you get Obafemi versus Roman, probably, and we'll talk about that in a sec. What we will discuss though, Alan, is 24. Is it 24 wrestlers?
Something like that. 2024.
24 wrestlers. Let me give the names in case anyone doesn't know. Bear with me. So the people who were all fired on the same day. The one who's been the most controversial was Kairi Sane because she was involved in a big storyline. Well, a storyline. You've got Alexa Black. You've got Zelina Vega, his wife. You've got the whole Wyatt Six, including Nikki Cross. Apollo Crews. Yes, he was still employed. You've got Zoe Stark, Andre Chase. You got Tyra May Steele. Don't know who that is. You've got Alba Fire. You've got Serena Linton. I don't know some of these people. You've got Tyson, Tyrek, Chris Ireland, Malik Blade, Trill London, and Luca Crestino. I'll be honest, I've only heard of maybe half of them. And obviously the ones that we're going to talk about more are the ones who were prominent on WWE TV. So out of that list, Alan, were you shocked by anyone? And was there somebody any in that list who you think they've made a massive, massive mistake?
Kairi Sane shocked me, obviously, because she was involved in the whole Asuka Io kind of storyline. I didn't see that coming. I had suspicions with Aleister Black because he was doing the whole Carry on Cross thing. He was behind the scenes, pouring honey into the ears of everybody, being the devil on their shoulders. And I thought, this is just Carry on Cross. And I thought, oh my God, they're going to get rid of him, aren't they? They're going to get rid of him because they've got nothing else for him to do. But the fact that his last televised match was beating Randy Orton, that was a terrible thing to do. With the Wyatt Six, I had an inkling. I remember I've got a friend of mine, Billy, who I work with, and we're big, Wyatt fans. We love Bray Wyatt, and of course we take the Wyatt Six as not the full deal, obviously, because obviously Paul Bray has since passed. But we took it as a nice homage to him. And I did say to him at one point, I said, look, I wouldn't be surprised if the Wyatt Six are gone before the end of the year. And I actually said that to him. And then lo and behold, the Friday after Mania, all 6 members are gone. Sorry, all 5 members. There's only 6. There's only 5. I think they should have kept Bo at least. If they're going to release them, fine, release them. I don't want anyone to lose their jobs. That's awful. No one should lose their jobs. But if they were going to keep any of them, Bo is the one they should have kept because he's the direct link to Bray. I think they could have used
Rowan as well. Rowan was the link to Bray.
Yeah. To an extent, yes. Rowan also was a link to Bray because he was part of the original Wyatt family. So yeah, if you're going to keep one, keep Bo. You're going to keep 2, you keep Rowan as well. I mean, Nikki Cross didn't surprise me because I actually never saw her wrestle. In the whole 2 years she was part of the Wyatt Six. I never saw her in the ring.
I don't remember her.
I never saw her in the ring. She was always at ringside with the Wyatt Six, but she was never in a match that I ever saw. That was televised at the very least. It was, and Rowan, I don't think he had many matches. I think he had a couple of, but even then, it was like a couple of tag matches. I think he had. It was always Uncle Howdy and Dexter Lumis and Joe Gacy. They were like the prominent 3 of the 5.
I think I can't. Was I shocked? I think Kairi Sane shocked me, not because I think they value her that much, because to be honest, she was always the full in the Kabuki Warriors. She was always Marty Jannetty. Let's be honest, she always was the Marty Jannetty to Asuka's Shawn Michaels. So she was always the one taking the pinfalls, and that was kind of her role in Damage Control. Oh, Damage Control are going to lose a match. Who's taking the pinfall? It's going to be Kairi Sane. And she never really came close to winning any titles. Singles titles. I know she was a tag champion, but I mean, she never got any title matches. She was always the third wheel. So I'm not shocked that they didn't value her much, because you can tell by the booking that they didn't particularly value her. The shocking thing was, as you said, Alan, that they didn't finish the storyline. Yeah,
please finish the storyline. Take up to Backlash night after. See you later. Future endeavors and all that business.
They could have easily waited a month, finish the storyline, which it looks like they're going to have a Backlash with Asuka and Io Sky, your favorite, and then just finish whatever the storyline was going to be. I assume it looked like that she was going to side with Io Sky and she was going to start feuding with Asuka, which would have been an interesting feud. Obviously, that's not going to happen now. So I was shocked to see her go, although there's a lot of rumors around that she quit and she wanted to go back to Japan. and that she's happy that they kind of got rid of her because she wants to go back to Japan. She's homesick, so maybe she was okay with it. Maybe she didn't quit. Maybe she's gone to them and say, I don't enjoy being in America. Can you blame her? I don't enjoy living in America nowadays. I'd rather go back to Japan. She might have a boyfriend or whatever. Her family's probably over there. So, if that is the reason, it's because she's homesick. I don't think you can. I mean, people can chant, "We want Kari" all if you want. But
yeah. She was trending on Twitter as well.
Yeah, if she doesn't want to, if she wants to go home, I mean, let her go home. I mean, Japan's a very different culture to America. They're acclimatized into that kind of a different culture. It's not easy for a lot of them. And I remember hearing a story about her a couple of years ago that she didn't want to be in America. And this was years ago. There were stories about her being homesick. So I imagine that she never really acclimatized to the culture of America, and especially nowadays, what it's like. I mean, I'm not sure I blame her. So fair play. Alexa Black isn't. The reason why it's an odd one, Alan, because as you said, he pinned Randy. It wasn't clean, but he pinned Randy Orton, and he's not been pushed that heavily. But you can't say he's been jobbed out. He's won a lot of matches. He had a feud with Damian Priest, and even though he lost the last match of Damian Priest, I remember him pinning Damian Priest several times in the feud.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
He didn't really appear on pay-per-view, so you can say, well, I think he barely was on any PLEs. To be fair,
was he at the Rumble? He was he?
I'm not sure. I don't think he was. So you might say that maybe he wasn't being featured prominently. You're right, but he also wasn't being treated as a complete jobber. Like I say, he's only lost a couple of matches.
Yeah, he's a strong mid-card talent.
Yeah,
he easily could be pushed to a US title easily.
Yeah, and there was even talk as recently as just before the Chamber where it's like, they were thinking about including him in the big fatal 4-way or the 5-way that they were initially going to do before they pivoted and put just Cody and Randy. Yeah, he was being mentioned as that.
Yeah, plus he was going to be part of the. He was going to be the Pat McAfee in the Randy Orton match.
I was about to say that, and I wonder, Alan, if that was the last straw for him. It's like, hold on a second, you're giving my spot to this guy who can't even particularly wrestle. You give him my spot to him. Maybe he was like, you know what, I want out, and my wife wants to go with me as well. Because that, it's interesting that they fired both of them. Obviously they're married in real life, in case anyone didn't know. So, problem with Aleister Black and also Zelina, because I don't think she's been very kind to AEW either. They ain't going to AEW, so that doesn't leave that many options for him unless he goes to Japan. If he wants to stay in the US, it's going to have to be TNA. Yeah,
which is that's semi under the WWE banner, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Whether or not he'll want to, I don't know. So, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be seeing Aleister Black anytime soon. We might not ever get to see him on a national stage ever again.
I did see a funny video actually with Aleister Black. Someone had taken a clip from The Simpsons.
Yeah.
And when Homer goes to get his job back at the power plant.
Yeah.
And you got the door, it says applicants, and he had like a smaller door called supplicants, and he had to crawl through it. And they basically put Aleister Black's head on Homer Simpson, and then they put Tony Khan's face on Mr. Burns. He goes, well, you've come crawling back.
Yep. And there's been also, Alan, some of the AEW wrestlers have been posting on their Twitter machines and whatever, on X, sorry. They don't want him back. They've made it quite known that they don't want him back. So I don't think he was very popular. I can tell you another reason why he wouldn't be wanted back. He was one of CM Punk's friends.
There you go.
Do you want to know who else was one of CM Punk's friends? Powerhouse Hobbs.
Oh wow, there we go.
Ricky Saints. Are you seeing a pattern here?
Ricky Saints. They get rid of all connection to CM Punk. Yeah.
So he ain't going to be welcome back because the Bucks and Kenny ain't going to want him back, and they're still pout. They've got a lot of influence still. So I don't know what happens to Aleister Black. The rest of them, Alan, I'm not into the White Six. I don't hate the talents involved. I've got nothing against any of them. I just think it was a no-win situation because they're miscast because they should be heels. 100%.
Yeah,
they should be heels.
I think they should have been heels. When they came in, they had that awesome debut. When they first appeared, he was like a massacre backstage in the gorilla position and all that.
Yep.
Howdy comes through all in darkness and silhouetted, whatnot. And from that point onwards, they should have been a dominant team, appearing every now and again to just dominate. That's what that has, until one day they get stopped. But no,
this is the problem when you've got you've got a faction of 5 guys, just basic storytelling. When you've got 5 guys and they're feuding with the occasional couple of people, they've got the numbers advantage. And when it's backwards storytelling, they can't be, if they've got the numbers advantage, they've got to be the heels. They can't be the baby faces when they've got the numbers advantage and they're doing all this stuff. It doesn't fit just basic storytelling. So it's like, but I know why they've done it. You mentioned it earlier. They've done it because of Bray, because they want to be baby faces, because they want to honor Bray Wyatt's legacy, which is cool and all, because he's his brother in real life. I get it. Of course I get it. But that's why it was a no-win situation, because they needed to be heels, but they couldn't be heels because of Bray's passing. And they didn't want people to boo the music because Bray's passed away, and it was a tribute act, like you said. So they can't boo it, because if they boo it, they're kind of booing Bray Wyatt, and they don't want to boo Bray Wyatt because so many of us loved the Bray Wyatt and how good he was. So it was a no-win situation. I think, Alan, they probably should have had Howdy maybe by himself. If Howdy was by himself, he could be a babyface. If he's by himself.
Yeah.
Just have it be Bo. Just have Uncle Howdy just as a singles. Don't do the White Six. Just have Howdy.
Yeah, that's what they should do. Bring Bo back and have him as Uncle Howdy.
That way you can honor Bray Wyatt, and he can be a babyface because he's going to be by himself, and then you can include him and you can. Even though I'm not a fan of the supernatural stuff, if you want to do that route with him, then fine. I know that lots of people like it. But then do it as a babyface. Don't have him have 6. Don't let it be 6 guys all attacking people, because it goes against storytelling. It goes against just basic storytelling. Okay, Alan. We've got 2 topics left. What time is it? Got about 20 minutes or so. I thought what might be fun is, since we're obviously the longest point until the next WrestleMania, we try and predict what we think the big matches are. So for next year's WrestleMania, we're assuming it's going to be 2 nights. We've heard nothing to indicate that it won't be. So we'll go with the assumption that it's going to be 2 nights.
Okay.
Obviously, it's going to be held in Saudi. Again, we'll go with the assumption that it is being held in Saudi. We know there's a war going on, but we'll see. But we'll go with the assumption that it's still held in Saudi as well. So let's go. We can talk about the 2 main events, but just any big matches that don't have to be for the belt that you think are going to be, not guaranteed, but you think that next year we're going to see. You can go first, Alan. So your 2 main events, and if they're not title matches, then the title matches and stuff like that. What are the big matches you think for next year?
Knowing how much the Saudis have always asked for, the big stars.
Because Una and Moria, and they're not getting them, Alan.
Yeah, they're not going to get them, no. At first, I was thinking John Cena. Could they coax him out of retirement? But I think there's a bigger draw for them. I think they're going to go for Roman Reigns versus The Rock. I mean, that's something that WWE wanted to do. I know Roman's wanted to do it. I think Rock's wanted to do it. And considering it's Roman Reigns' last match, I think this is the one they want to do. I mean, I kind of feel sorry for Roman. I mean, AJ Styles retired in Saudi. Roman's going to do exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
So that's one of the matches. That'd be one of the nights. I reckon Roman Rock.
That's night 2. Then there's no what if the Rock's wrestling is not wrestling. That's night 2 main event, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it for the belt? Is it for the belt though?
No, that's a non-belt match. That's a non-title match. If there's a title match, it's going to be like opening contest or mid card.
So what's your title matches then? If you think that match is main eventing, so what are your 2 world title matches?
Considering he's never won a Rumble before, I'm going to go with CM Punk to face. Who would be the champion at that point? I mean, part of me thinks Obafemi, but I don't want to see Obafemi versus CM Punk. That'd be a terrible match.
It'll squash him in 90 seconds. That will get my blood.
That'd be a terrible match. I'm going to say Bron Breakker. I don't think CM Punk versus Bron Breakker.
They had a good match earlier this year in January.
Yeah.
So.
And that would be the other title match. I'm going to go with I'm going to go with Seth Rollins as the world champion versus Sami Zayn.
So you are going to go with the Sami Zayn title win in Saudi? You think they'll demand that? Do you? Yeah.
I think so. Because they've got Mansoor anymore, have they? They need somebody.
No, he's in AW as a maximum male model.
Yeah, and the other guy they used to. Oh, it was Mansoor, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was Mansoor.
It's shopping just for the Saudi events, and then they ended up hiring before sticking him in that shitty little gimmick he had.
So you got Breakker versus Punk, and then you got
Rollins versus Sami Zayn, and I reckon that, considering how they're booking Rollins at the moment, they're kind of pointing towards an exit point for Rollins. I think they're saying injuries can't sustain him anymore.
But Breakker did kind of make that on Raw. Breakker did actually mention that to him.
Yeah. So Bron Breakker, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn, and then The Rock versus Roman is your night 2 main event.
Right. Well, that's the 2 world title matches, and then you've got the big main event. Any other matches that you can see, particularly big matches anyway?
Oh, easy. Ultimate Warrior versus Yokozuna.
Well, yeah, that would be the opening contest just to get the Prince out.
Yeah, considering how lackluster this year's WrestleMania has been, it could be anything. It really could be anything. You could have fucking Grayson Waller in a US title match versus someone. If he's still there, I'd reckon he'd be gone by the summer. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else they could put
on. So I initially, I initially thought that The Rock was going to wrestle as well, and it could still happen if they throw enough money at anyone, people will do things. Right, that's the way of the world. They have got the money to pull this off, to offer The Rock money he couldn't turn down. But I actually don't think it's actually on the cards. That's not to say that they won't convince him, especially if ticket sales go down. We know how they panicked this year and last year. But I think if you're asking me now, I don't see how The Rock particularly gets in there. Yes, there is the story. That Rock's got 2 stories which they could revisit. He's got the unfinished story with Cody Rhodes, which we never got a finish of.
True.
In fact, Rock owed Cody a pinfall because Rock pinned him in the tag match. Cody never got his revenge. Rock owes Cody a pinfall.
Triple H owes CM Punk a pinfall too.
You're right about that. Yeah, he never got that.
You never got that.
And obviously the feud with Roman, which is probably Rock's first choice because that is the match obviously Rock wanted. I just think that now that they've put the belt on Reigns and now Reigns is the babyface, I'm just thinking a year from now. I think they've set the ball rolling on Obafemi versus Roman Reigns. This isn't what I want. This is what I think. It's not what I want. I think Obafemi wins a title against Roman Reigns next year.
Oh God, the crowd goes mild.
Probably. I think that is the person that they are. I originally thought it was going to be Bron Breakker, as Wayne's put in the chat, but they have. If you haven't noticed, though Bron Breakker is still an important part of the show, they have pushed Bron Breakker a little bit. They pushed him. I know he's been injured, but they've knocked him back a little bit. They've cooled their jets on Bron Breakker a little bit, and in his place they've put Obafemi. They've replaced Bron Breakker with Obafemi as the hottest the hottest kind of up and comer in their minds. So Bron Breakker could still be there. And originally, if Obafemi wouldn't have come into it, I would guarantee that Bron Breakker would be in a title match next year. But I actually think it's going to be Obafemi. I think I can see the executives watering their lips at an Obafemi Roman Reigns match. The only thing is, I don't know if they can hold off on it until WrestleMania because I've already said about Obafemi. I think that candle's going to burn out real fast. So whether or not he's still going to be as popular as he is, they have to book Obafemi a year. Don't be surprised if Obafemi doesn't lose a match this year. I bet you that Obafemi does not lose a match. He certainly ain't getting pinned. He might get a DQ. He might lose a match for a DQ or something or a count out. He ain't getting pinned. Obafemi is not getting pinned this calendar year. Because you can already see it. He ain't getting pinned. I think he faces Roman Reigns. He probably wins the Rumble, probably dominantly wins the Rumble next year, and he faces Roman Reigns. As for the other title match, I think initially it was going to be Sami Zayn, and they wanted that. But Sami Zayn has been getting booed heavily, especially in America. And Sami Zayn, when he fought Drew McIntyre at the Royal Rumble, which was in Saudi, the crowd didn't care. I think that's destroyed any hope of Sami Zayn winning the belt in Saudi, because they expected the Saudi fans to be, oh, Sami Zayn's going to win the title against Drew McIntyre. But the truth is that nobody thought Sami Zayn had a chance, and he didn't have a chance. And the Saudi fans all knew that. So I think that they've given up. I'm sure Sami Zayn will be on the card, but I think they've given up with any idea of Sami Zayn becoming a world champion now, especially with the fact is he seems to have turned heel, which is, if he's going to win the belt in Saudi, he's not going to do it as a heel, is he? But he's just turned heel. So unless they turn him back face near the end of the year, which they could do, they have to rebuild the whole Sami Zayn character. And I just think that originally they were going to do it, but the backlash to Sami Zayn, especially in the US, has been that people are fed up of the nice guy character, and that people have turned against him. And I think that's probably curtailed any chance of Sami Zayn becoming a world champion. Probably full stop. I can't see him probably ever becoming a world champion now. The only chance was winning it in Saudi at WrestleMania. And I think it's all gone sideways for him, unfortunately. I think that he'll end up feuding with Cody Rhodes during the year, but he ain't winning the belt. Because they're already kind of writing that. If you see, they're already taking shots at each other. Sami Zayn and Cody Rhodes are already kind of taking shots in promos. So that's going to happen probably during the summer. That will give Cody something to do in the summer. The match is going to be Cody versus Punk. They already kind of gave it away with the Raw after WrestleMania. That was the cookie trail by Cody saying whenever you want. So they can have that match, and Punk doesn't even have to win the Rumble, because the Rumble's going to Obafemi. So Punk hasn't even got to win the Rumble. Punk can just more or less just ask for the title match, because that'll be all that takes now, because they've set it up. So Cody can just say, well, I did say whenever you wanted, just say the word, and Punk says okay, or he'll win the Chamber. The question I've got for you, Alan, if it is Punk versus Cody, which I'm convinced it's going to be, that'll be the night one, because it'll be for Obafemi versus Reigns night two. Who's the heel in Cody versus Punk? Or do you think Cody can retain his babyface status, considering the rate he's been getting booed for another year?
I reckon he should probably turn heel. He should definitely turn heel. They shouldn't really wait on it like they did with Cena, because of what happened with Cena. His heel turn was awful.
Yep.
Terrible heel turn. Cena should have turned heel years ago.
He should have turned heel when he was meant to turn heel originally, which was against the feud against The Rock. That's when he was meant to turn heel. They filmed. Did you? I don't know if people know this. Cena confirmed it, unless he was lying, which was John Cena. And, that wouldn't be that hard to believe that Cena was lying. But apparently, they filmed new vignettes. They recorded new music for him because he was going to become a heel in a feud with The Rock. That's what was originally going to happen. Vince McMahon at the last minute poo-pooed it.
Of course he did.
So Cena probably wanted to, and it was Vince McMahon, who didn't want to give up on his beloved John Boy, did he? So that's I don't know who's going to be the heel. I think maybe they go into it as two baby faces, but I think there's a heel turn either for Punk or Cody at the event. I don't know if Cody can last another year. I think the backlash has already started. Pat McAfee being introduced actually slowed the backlash a little bit, because they hated Pat McAfee so much they actually did cheer Cody over Pat. But as we saw in the main event, they didn't cheer Cody over Randy. They might have cheered Cody over Pat, but we all saw the night one WrestleMania main event and train wreck that it was, and the baffling booking decisions and the baffling storytelling in the match that I still can't get my head around. Suggests to me that Cody's babyface reign is not for that much longer. I don't know when. I don't know if it's going to be in the next 12 months. I think it should be. I think he should turn heel probably at SummerSlam. And I would have no problem with him being a heel and Punk being the babyface. Even though I know Punk's a great heel as well. I think the story fits more with Cody becoming the kind of pompous champions. Like, I'm the best wrestler. I'm the kind of golden boy. He already dresses like it. He comes out in his suits. He already looks a little bit like, because Cody kind of challenges. Cody's character is half Dusty Rhodes and half Ric Flair. He dresses and acts like Ric Flair does a lot of the time. He picked that stuff up from Ric Flair 100%.
Nice segue.
We'll talk about Flair in a sec. So Cody Rhodes is half Ric Flair, and that's, he grew up watching. His dad's greatest rival was Ric Flair. He grew up watching Dusty and Rick. So of course he was going to draw those two inspirations of what he would be like if he was a world champion. So he dresses like a corporate champion. And back in the day, Steve Austin and The Rock, even though The Rock was a corporate, he didn't wear suits. They were both they weren't like that. They were more anti-establishment. Where Cody, his character is very, very establishment. He's easy. Him turning heel is easy for him to do. He wouldn't even have to change that much. Just be a little bit more arrogant. That's all they have to do. So I look forward to it, Alan. I think Cody's going to make a very good heel. And I look forward to that will be the stuff that draws me back. I'm not interested in anything that Roman Reigns does. But if Cody and Punk, once their feud starts, probably the end of the year, I'll be interested in that. And if we're still doing this show by that point, I'm going to be saying a lot of positive stuff about it, probably. I just don't care about the bloodline. But last but not least, or maybe least, little bit, not off topic, it's on topic. We all know, any of us who watch WrestleMania knew about the Hogan documentary. Hell, we saw half of the documentary in the adverts because there were so many. So we all probably know that they just put the Hogan documentary on Netflix. I have seen episodes 1 and 2. I haven't seen all of it. It's actually tough for me to actually sit through because there's so much, how can I phrase it, BS that is on that. Not all of them, but a lot of it is Hogan being Hogan. And that's why I was inspired to talk about this, because at the same time where I was kind of watching this, Ric Flair had his yearly outburst. Alan. He had his yearly mental breakdown.
What he said now.
He did a podcast, an MMA Hour podcast with Ariel Filani, I think his name is. He's done interviews with CM Punk. He's done interviews with Bret Hart. He's quite good, the guy.
Yeah, I saw the CM Punk one. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, and this guy, Ric Flair, just went on a tirade talking about how great Charlotte was, talking about how much he hated Ludwig Kaiser, who he thought was English. He thought he was in his 20s and he thought he was English, Alan. I mean, she's not even dating him anymore. That's how out of date Ric Flair. She's not even dating Ludwig Kaiser anymore. So everything he said was completely wrong. And he's just made a fool of himself. And he was saying, they didn't invite me to WrestleMania. And he was drunk. And I'm just going to put this out there. And I apologize if people don't like this, but I'm going to say it anyway. As someone who suffers with liver disease, which I do, which was not brought on by alcohol, by the way, for me, to see Ric Flair, who has had liver cirrhosis, get a transplant replacement liver, and then just to go back drinking, he should be ashamed of himself.
100%.
And the donor who gave him his liver. I feel like that's why it got to me a little bit, because I saw him and I'm thinking to myself, it's not right. Everything. I mean, I know, yeah, he was very rich. He could probably afford he could have the bit. He's not like me. He's got to sit on the NHS. He can afford the best of the world. He's rich. Of course he can. But to see him abusing it this way makes me sick. It makes me personally sick. Now I'm being biased, and I'm admitting my bias here. It makes that's already upset me. It is what it is. And I think to myself, Ric Flair is, for me, he's not a very good person. And you can listen to all the stories about all the hostesses and stuff, and all the stuff he used to get up with, which we can all have a little bit of a laugh with. Oh, he used to run around naked, showing his dick to everybody. I'm sure the boys found it hilarious. Yeah, we can all have a giggle at it. But when does that go from being a laugh to being sexual harassment?
Exactly.
And he did this all the time. And you'd think that somebody of his advanced age would learn lessons. He would learn life lessons. He learns nothing. And he thinks he's owed stuff. He can't stop being his Nature Boy character 24/7. This is a dude who was not there for his children. This is a dude who's had 4 or 5 divorces and cheated on every one of his wives. Okay? So this is why I wanted to talk about him and Hogan. And this is not about their wrestling ability. This is not about how entertaining they were. Because even though I was never a Hulkamaniac, I could see people loved Hulk Hogan for the character he portrayed. I preferred Ric Flair's character. Ric Flair was an amazing heel in his time. He was one of the best promos there's ever been, and one of the best wrestlers there's ever been. Maybe not as good as he thinks he was, because he thinks he's the best. I don't think he's the best wrestler ever, but I can't deny the man's talents when it comes to being entertaining. Probably because he wasn't playing a character, guys. That's why he was so good at it, because he wasn't playing a character. He was being himself. In the same way, like Logan Paul is so good, because he's not playing a character. He's being himself. But Ric Flair, like I say, Ric Flair is like this in real life. And every other week, it seems like Ric Flair just comes out and just starts upsetting people, or thinks he deserves some kind of respect. It's like, no, mate. People can respect you in the wrestling business, but I haven't got to respect you. Why should I respect you as a human being when you do what you do and you treat people the way you treat them? This is Alan. This is the same man. Do you know what Cameo is?
Cameo,
yeah.
No.
It's a service where kind of D-list celebrities, which is what Ric Flair is, record videos for people, and people like send them to their loved ones as birthday.
Oh yes. There's something they do it over here, but it's called something else. But I know of the yeah.
And this is a man who gets paid lots and lots of money to do these 15-minute videos, if that, these 5-minute videos, and he does them drunk.
Classy.
So you've spent all this money to get Ric Flair to send a message to, I don't know, your friend or whatever, your father. And he records a message drunk, absolutely off his head, not knowing, not getting people's names wrong and stuff like that. This is what this man does. And he doesn't give the money back.
Of course he doesn't.
He takes the money. He doesn't give the money back. So I'll apologize if my own personal bias is getting in the way. Like I was saying, the liver stuff did trigger me. I'll be lying because it upset me seeing when I saw that he was still drinking. It's just like you've got no bloody respect. And I think it's not fair, and I'm going to use that word, that he is still alive when others are not. And I will leave that there, but that is what I honestly feel. Hogan, I think is the lesser of the two. That's why I said I think Hogan's not as bad as Flair. Hogan was a selfish piece of shit, right? He protected his spot, just like Ric Flair did, by the way. But he protected his spot. So did Steve Austin. So does The Rock. So does Triple H. So does The Undertaker. So does John Cena. So does Roman Reigns. And so does CM Punk, my favorite. They all do. So that part, all the top guys protect their spots. The difference for Hogan is that he lies all the time and he embellishes stuff that just isn't true. That's my problem with Hogan, is that he lies again and again and again. And you can see the lies, be it in books, be it in documentaries. And you come out and see this. Alan, he still thinks that Andre was shooting on him at WrestleMania 3. He still portrays this, that Andre was shooting on him. Do you think for 1 second that Hulk Hogan went into that match with Andre the Giant not knowing he was winning with a leg drop? Are you honestly telling me this? In the biggest event in 1987, in front of 90,000 people, that Hulk Hogan went out there with Vince McMahon in backstage, and Hulk Hogan didn't know what the finish was going to be. He didn't know that he was winning. Are you serious?
Well, it's not the first time I heard this, because I'm sure. What was it in? I think it was in the Andre the Giant documentary.
Yeah,
they did. Where Hogan, again, he claims he didn't know what the finish was. And Andre just said to him, slam. At that point, that was Hogan's call to give him the body slam and then drop the leg and pin him. Again, that's all from Hogan. So, yeah.
Absolute lies. Absolute lies. And it's stuff like that for me. You know, I mean, I think Hogan's not as bad as Flair, but I wanted to bring that up because they've both been in the news, and it was the Hogan documentary, obviously, that's put Hogan back into the news a bit. Because Hogan, to be honest, after he passed away, you don't really want to be that critical. It's always difficult when somebody passes away. You don't want to be too critical of them, but that still doesn't mean that you can just say, oh, they weren't what they were. I'm sure Hogan was a loving father. We don't need to get into. I mean, we can discuss it a little. We know that obviously he was known to be a racist. We know this. We've all heard it. We've all heard what he said. And he's tried to belittle that a little bit over the years after the incident. He was like, "Oh well, I didn't mean it that way," and we all know the stories, Alan, of him going into the locker room when he went back to the WWE, and several of the black athletes, I think it was like Big E and like Xavier Woods, refused to talk to him and listen to what he had to say, and apparently he didn't even apologize for it. He just apologized, and this is the kicker. He apologized that he was caught. He didn't apologize that he said it. He apologized that he was caught saying it.
Oh, class acts, these wrestlers, aren't they?
So Hulk Hogan was a piece of crap as well. Rest in peace. Rest in peace. And I respect both him and Flair for their accomplishments in wrestling. But I think that I hope that they are the last of. I hope that the main eventers of today, and maybe slightly the last generation, once they get up to the years of Flair and Hogan, do not destroy their legacies in the same way, in my opinion, that Hogan and Flair have. Their wrestling legacies are intact, and nothing can ever take that from Hogan or Flair. I'll tell you what, Alan, as somebody who loved Randy Savage so much, I don't know if I feel happy that he died younger, because he never got to the point where he destroyed his legacy by coming out with things, by coming out with crazy stuff. I think the worst Savage did is he cut a rap album on Hulk Hogan, which is the worst Savage ever did. Be a Man Hulk and stuff like that, right? So maybe, and there'll be other guys I looked up to who are going to start getting up there in age as well, who, haven't destroyed their legacies. I mean, Bret Hart. I wasn't even that big of a Bret Hart fan, but Bret Hart. I think Bret Hart is doing okay with his legacy. I think Shawn Michaels is doing okay with his legacy. He's generally keeping his mouth shut now and is working in NXT. I think he's doing okay. Undertaker, I am concerned about him with some of the stuff he's been coming out with on his podcast. I don't know if you've seen some of his podcasts.
No, I haven't. No, go on then. What's he said?
Well, no, it's just he's coming out with lots of different things on his podcast, and it's making me question a little bit of his integrity. Again, this is not me bashing their integrity as wrestlers. It's not about their wrestling legacy. This was not about Hogan or Flair's wrestling legacies. It's not about that. It's about how people age, and if they can keep their dignity, and if they can keep their wherewithal, and that they can keep their respect, and also if they can step out of the limelight as well. And I think both Hogan and Ric Flair, in my opinion, of course, struggle to leave the limelight behind, especially Ric Flair. Ric Flair doesn't know to be anything else other than the Nature Boy.
Very true. Yeah.
He's the character, and who he is as a person and the character are one and the same. They are literally the same.
Have you seen that? Have you seen the video of Flair in the restaurant?
Yep.
I
didn't even talk about that one. And the thing is, Alan, there's so many of these over the past couple of years. Like I say, it's your annual Ric Flair story. It's your annual Ric Flair story. Maybe even more than annual. Maybe even every other month or every 6 months. He'll come out and do something.
It's true. Do you know one of the things he generally says?
What's that?
Especially when it's in public. He says, "I'm Ric Flair, damn it."
Yeah.
I don't know if he goes, "Woo!"
He should. He
does that,
should.
But Nature Boy.
It's delusion. And you know what? These are old men, both Hogan and Flair, and we all know that faculties do depart. Everybody, right? And maybe it is as simple as that. Maybe the faculties have gone. They certainly took a lot of blows to the head. Both of them did, and their bodies, obviously, they were involved in a very physical sport or entertainment, whatever you want to look at it, for a large number of years. Both men wrestled probably way longer than they should, especially Flair. Flair wrestled 20 years longer than he probably should have, but he couldn't give it up.
No, he couldn't.
So who knows what is going on in their heads? And maybe that's part of it. Maybe that's what I mean. Maybe by dignity. Maybe I'm not giving enough credit for just their faculties going, Alan. It's difficult because obviously I don't see Ric Flair every day. I don't know exactly what he's like every minute and every day. I don't know. I do know, like I said, though, is that he had a liver replacement and he's shown no respect for his body. And I think that's disgraceful.
Yeah, it's disgraceful.
In my position. And I apologize if that upsets anyone. I'm being honest.
The man's given a second chance, and he's just pissing on it.
Yeah. So again, apologies if people don't like that subject. I thought it was something a bit different. We spent most of the show talking about today's wrestling, but I just thought I'd bring it up after seeing, like I say, a combination of Ric Flair's latest escapade over WrestleMania weekend, and then viewing some of the Hogan documentary and listening to Hogan's. I think it was the last interview Hogan did. I think, yeah, it was. They did it just before he passed away.
Yeah, I mean, it's only a 4 episode series, so you're halfway through.
Yeah, so you are getting the final words of Hogan. So you are seeing, as recently as you can regarding, what the men were like. But we don't see these people all day, every day, and I'm not going to sit here and say that they don't love their kids at all or stuff like that. All right, I'm not saying that. I'm more saying about how they certainly are in public, and how they carry themselves in public more than anything else. Do I think they're both evil men? Probably not. No, but they show very little respect for fans, and like I say, especially Flair. Flair's worse than Hogan, in my opinion. So that's my answer, Alan. The answer to the question was, who's worse, Hogan or Flair? Ric Flair.
Easily. Yeah, I agree.
Wayne Bonner says Ric Flair's a twat. I agree. And Cuva says, lock in, support, blah, blah, blah. Hit like, leave. See ya. Thanks, Cuva. short and to this point.
Yes, Cuva.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's any feedback in the chat. If you guys think Hogan or Flair's worse, maybe you think I'm wrong. Maybe you think that both guys are stand-up guys and carried themselves. Like saying in Hogan, obviously it's past tense now. Flair's still going. Somehow Flair's still going. Somehow.
Yeah, he outlived Hogan somehow.
He's outlived a lot of them. Yeah.
I'm hoping for a Bret Hart documentary. It'd be great.
Yeah, and as Alan did say to me in the WhatsApp, there are worse people than Hogan and Flair. He put a person who we can maybe talk about another time. That's a whole different conversation regarding the person he put as probably the worst person in wrestling. And it's difficult to argue with him because this man has gone to new levels of borderline evilness, because it's very serious stuff, even worse than guys like Flair and Hogan. So Ric Flair is not the worst person in the wrestling business, but he is worse than Hulk Hogan, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Stick it to it.
But yeah, unless you've got anything else to add, Alan, we'll get out of here for another.
No, I'm good until next week. I'm not sure what we can be looking forward to. I mean, we got Backlash in a couple of weeks, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Backlash in a couple of weeks. Obviously, what we got, Io Sky versus, is it Asuka? No, that's wrong. No, it's right. No. It's Sky versus Asuka, yeah. And we've got Seth Rollins versus Braun Breaker, and then they just announced Roman Reigns versus Jacob Fatu.
And we can look forward to an hour of ads.
Can't wait. What documentary are they going to shove down our throats this time?
Don't know. They have whatever one's out next. Hogan won't be Hogan by then. It'll be a new one they've got.
Hopefully they'll answer my question as well. Does Snickers satisfy?
Pleasure. Okay then. Right then. There should be a show.
And will Solo get his DoorDash?
Solo get his DoorDash. Don't get me started on those ads. I will quickly add there might not be a show next week, at least on the Wednesday. You might have to push it back to Thursday next week because chances are I'll be hanging out with Alan and Com in real life.
Yeah.
Chances are there probably won't be a show. We might have to move it to Thursday. That's cool. We'll try. There'll be a show next week, but it's probably going to have to be on the Thursday. So look out for that next week. But yeah, thanks you again, Alan. Thank you from Tequila the Buddy Ventura. Thank you from Alan, the $1 Million Man, DiBiase, and one of and over. We'll see you next time. Take care. Bye for now.